And welcome into Brainstorming America. I'm Ken Rollins, and I'm about to fall apart there. We're here with John Merrill, and John, when we went to break, we were talking about some of the issues of today, and I got one more I want to talk to you about, and we talked to the people about. There's a law that everybody knows by now, that says you cannot protest or interrupt jurors or justices, judges, while in the process of a trial. You can't do that, so you don't interfere with, coerce, or make people do something that you want. You can't go to jurors' house and threaten them if they vote a certain way. And that is a federal law that's been a law as long as I can remember. But yet we watched as every day the people marching in front of the Justice of the Supreme Court.
Sure.
After the Roe versus Wade thing.
Right.
And the Department of Justice did nothing about that. And every one of them that was walking was susceptible to a 1 to 10 year federal crime. Just to arrest those that's on TV, they ain't got to find them. Just take the video.
Sure.
And give it to the people, the Department of Justice.
Right.
My point is, things that are obvious and things that are on the Democrat side, the liberal side, get washed and swept away. Even had Judge Kavanaugh, they were going to kill him, one guy. But yet, and they arrested him. I give them credit for that. But when you got a law that's so defined, it's nothing ambiguous about that. It says if you were on a jury and somebody was outside your door saying, "Merrill, don't you vote for that. If you do it, I will kill you." There's protection for you for that. And there's protection for those people.
There is,
now,
and that's where it's supposed to be, absolutely.
That's where I get my double justice started.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on it?
Well, it's a major concern for so many people today because people are afraid to even have their opinion heard, let alone in an environment like you're talking about, whether it be a jurist or whether it be a member of a jury.
Or school board.
Or school board, any elected official. People are concerned for their own personal safety, and so they really don't know how to respond to that because they don't want to be taken advantage of by the woke mob that is so prevalent today, that is all around the country. You see some remnants of that here locally where people have been accosted or there have been threats made to them or their family members because of personal positions that they've taken on political issues. But one of the things that Ken touched on earlier is prosecutorial misconduct by prosecutors at the district attorney level, at the federal level, obviously at the state attorney general level, that are not actually trying to prosecute crimes or criminal activity that seems so evident to the rest of us. But the thing that we have to remember is that those individuals who are charged with the indictment have to put together a package of information that they can present to a grand jury for the indictment. And if they don't see fit to do that, we should believe that there's a reason for that. Maybe they have information that we don't have. But if that happens on a consistent basis, I think what we're required to do is to make sure we vote them out of office and put competent and capable people in those roles that will work hard to protect us each and every day.
You and I are close to and intermingle with law enforcement all across the state. And I can imagine, let's just give Bill Partridge, the chief of police of Oxford, arresting one of the big guys of this community. It was harming families, children, whatever. Just one of the bad dudes. And then is kicked out by the DA. And we know both those individuals, but we don't see that kind of thing happening in our community. But just imagine if it did, to go to all that, spend all those resources to bring this person to justice, only to see him on the street before you can get your car out of the garage.
Well, it causes you to lose confidence in the process. And when that happens, people stop reporting. And some people choose to take it into their own hands to make sure that justice is served.
I never thought I'd see the day that I would question the FBI. Never thought I'd see it. I grew up all my life putting them on the highest pedestal. And I think they've allowed politics to get inside somehow. It's wiggled in there. We saw it during Russia. The lie that they on Trump. Trump went through 4 years. Folks need to remember, they were on his case before he even got in office. Before he ever got in office. Right? He came down them stairs with Melania. They was after him. And they did not let up on him to the day he's out of office. And they ain't let off on him yet. You agree?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That's been well documented and recorded, as we know and as we've discussed on the program numerous times.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's so important, Ken, that we continue to focus on making sure that people who have broken the law, people who are responsible for breaking the law or aiding and abetting those individuals are identified, if it's warranted, that they're indicted and they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Because we cannot afford to lose confidence in our process, because if we do, then people will start to act rogue and they'll go on their own administering justice the way they see fit.
Any of you people out there looking for security, I suggest you contact Fox Television, find out who that guy was that took care of that fella in that 7-Eleven that was rolling that stuff off in the trash can. He got a broom handle. Did you see that?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
He put that thing to create some justice.
No doubt about it. And we hope that you'll join us right after this break to talk more about administering justice and doing it the appropriate way. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you in a few seconds.
Welcome back to Brainstorming America, here with John Merrill. And John, I saw another report. I see a lot of reports.
And we're thankful that you do.
And it's talking about America is sending American retirement funds through BlackRock to the CCP. They're handling our retirement funds. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, look, Ken, international investments, one of the things that's always funny to me is people who have certain positions and they say, well, I don't want to be supportive of that particular entity because they believe in expanding gay rights. I don't want to support this particular group because they believe in providing abortions for people that are taxpayer funded. I don't want to support this group because they make international investments into the Chinese or the Russians or this group or that group. And in the worldwide economy that we live in today, when you're talking about international investments, it's really, really difficult for you to know exactly where those resources are being invested, how they're being returned, and what the end result is for you. And whenever you choose to get in the stock market, you can rest assured that there are so many people in New York and around the world that are involved in international investments that are not really concerned about your personal political philosophy when they're making those investments. They're trying to make sure that you get the highest rate of return for the money that you've given them, so you will retain them and their services. And I will say this, you know, if it really concerns you about where those resources are being invested and the way that they're being invested, then you need to be the one responsible for doing your personal research, and you need to be the one responsible for making those personal buys and sells, and you need to be the one responsible for your own portfolio. Without that, I think that you're just barking up a tree that you'll never see the end of when it comes to determining whether or not your money's being invested the way that you want it invested.
Well, one of the concerns is, naturally, if your money is being held by the Chinese, and we're at any day and any minute to be in a war with them, if you watch what's happening on the high seas, people wonder if my money would be safe if the enemy has my retirement.
Sure.
and they should think that way.
Of course they
and that's
should.
what I say. You said it. They should ask their investor to look into where that money is going.
That's right. You have to be wise about who you've chosen to invest your resources with, and then you have
Where?
to watch your portfolio to make sure it's accomplishing your personal investment goals.
Amen. Well, I ain't got to worry about that because I got all my money invested in cash
Yes, sir.
in my left front pocket.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. While we're on the Chinese, I also noticed that I forgot the number, but there's thousands and thousands of acres of land that the Chinese own in America. And some of that land is around military bases, and there's nothing that we have that can stop them from doing it. You was kind of in that, but let me ask you, when you were Secretary of State, the people that build businesses here, you could know if it's Chinese or whatever?
No, we have some information that's requested whenever someone starts to produce a name reservation or to establish a license in the state to do business in Alabama, but there are certain things that you don't know, especially if private partners are involved in the creation of the entity. And so you have to do additional homework if you try to find that kind of information out. But I do think, Ken, that it's important to note that the Alabama legislature has recently passed legislation to prevent certain international corporations or entities from making purchases in certain locations in the state of Alabama, property and otherwise. The federal government has also done some things and looking at doing others to change the way that those international investments can be made in the United States, especially where national defense is at risk.
Yeah. I want to poll the audience, if I could, to see how many of you folks out there travel on I-65 north and south. Okay, about half the crowd. You travel a lot, don't you?
I do, yes, sir, frequently.
We saw our president
Yes, sir.
and our real president, Donald John Trump.
Yes, sir.
What did he say about that?
He said that on day one, when he's elected, and then when he takes office, January the 20th, 2025, that he will make it a priority to see that I-65 is 6-laned from Huntsville all the way to Mobile. I think it's important to give credit where the credit is due on that particular issue. Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth has been a champion for that project consistently, and he had a personal conversation with the president and asked him to consider adding that to his speech, which he did, and introduced it to the 2,700 people that were in attendance on August the 4th, 2023 at the Renaissance there in Montgomery. I think it showed a commitment from the president to the people of Alabama to identify a critical area of need where infrastructure is involved. And yet, recently, I've seen some people cast aspersions on Governor Ivey because of other commitments that have been made for a West Alabama corridor and other things that are part of the Rebuild Alabama project. And I think those people that have done that are way off base, because you have to understand that you've got to use the resources that are available to you for infrastructure projects that are important not just to a particular part of the state, but to the entire state as a whole. And with those infrastructure commitments that are made, economic development investments usually follow. So we have to make sure that we're looking at the big picture, not just the picture that we think is important to us. Speaking of looking at the picture, we hope you'll look at our picture one more time after this last break for this week's episode of Brainstorming America.
Welcome back to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins here with John Merrill. I hope you had a nice break. You got those M&Ms and what would people be having? Of course, we don't know what
Get
time of
potato
day.
chips and Coca-Colas. They said
Yeah,
right
but
there on
somebody
the
might be
couch.
watching this at night. So,
That's always an appropriate snack.
is it?
Yeah, I saw something the other day that said potato chips were the #1 snack in the world.
Really? I can
Yes,
tell you that.
number
by-
one.
You can testify that by looking at my recliner, because I got some from 1992.
You didn't have to tell that, Coach.
But I wish they hadn't told that about the goat. Yeah, I understand. But I do have certain things that show up down there once in a while, but I don't leave them for years. Let me talk about our favorite subject, Hunter Biden. Now, folks out there think that this is just a Republican thing they got a hold of like a little fast dog gets a hold of your pants leg. That's not it. This guy, we got a guy in our state that kicked him out of the military. He wants to tell his story as much as anybody, but he knows the Hunter Biden and he talked about his being corrupt while he was still in the Navy. And he got kicked out. So he's been into something all of his life. Yesterday, John, I don't know if you noticed it, the report came out of Associated Press that the dope, the cocaine that was found, or the toot, or whatever you want to call it, was called in the little hideaway place where you put your phones and stuff in the White House, that belonged to a Biden circle, somebody in the Biden circle. But it wasn't Hunter, so they say. And they say that Hunter was gone there that evening. Well, he could have dropped it before he left, but we're not saying it's Hunter. But they said that Joe Biden was told within 3 hours who it was. That's what was reported by AP yesterday. That with the fingerprints, within 3 hours, they were able to identify the person, and it was in the Biden circle. And one of the agents told, if you want to know who it was, ask Joe Biden, because he knows. So think about that. You got somebody doing this, lets the story go, nobody knows who it was, just the crookedness of that. I mean, they should have brought the guy out there that did that, and if he worked for the White House, he was a state employee, fire him on the spot, because he said he'd do that. He would fire people who mistreated people. So fire somebody like that on the spot. Show us that you don't believe in drugs being in our White House.
Now, Ken,
that's our White House.
Cocaine is an illegal substance in all 50 states in the union. It's important to know that if you've been able to identify the source, you need to address it at the point of origin. This was in the People's House, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That is a tragedy that we know who it was, and that individual has not been dealt with according to the statutes that are on the book in the District of Columbia, as well as all 50 states around the union.
The only thing I think worse is you were visiting the Pope, and you bent over to shake his hand, and a bag of cocaine rolled out of your pocket. However, somebody took this in, and it didn't. This little cubby hole, you got to understand, folks. This is on the side of a wall, a little area that you put your items in there, and you pick them up when you come back out. You're going into the secret areas. You can't take these items. You can't take a cell phone, so you leave this out here. And it didn't say what to do with your cocaine. I need to put a sign up there now. But bottom line is, our president is saying, or his spokesperson is saying that they have no idea who did it. The person that comes out there every week don't even know where she is. She don't know where the cocaine is. She don't have any idea who put it there. But we do. Now we know more than she does. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, I'm following this. Yesterday, I don't know why on a Monday, but there was a lot of information came forward where that money came from. $25 million from an oligarch in Russia to Hunter Biden. $25 million. That woman, the richest woman in Russia, they said, gave Hunter $26 million. What do you think they give these? What do they expect to get for this?
Well, whenever you are paying someone a retainer or a specific payment for an announced sum like the amount that we're talking about here, obviously that person is expected to do certain things for those resources that have been provided. whether they are illegal, illicit, immoral, or legal, is depending on the contractual relationship, whether it's a legal contract or an understood contract, with the people that are involved in the understanding. And I think it's very clear that all of the people that have entered into any kind of contractual arrangement with Hunter Biden over the last 30 plus years of his life have done so because they're buying the brand, the Biden brand. They want access to, as they have called him in the media several times, the big guy, which would be Senator Joseph Biden, or Vice President Joseph R. Biden, or President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. And that's what you're expecting, is to gain access, to gain an understanding, to gain an audience in some instances through your relationship with his son. And that is unfortunate because in most instances, we call that those individuals being for hire. And if they're trying to do something that brings personal benefit and personal gain to themselves or their family at the expense of the United States of America, that's a loss for our republic.
And you think about when he's running for election, he told about the prosecutor in Ukraine. He wanted him fired. He was over there as he was the vice president representing Obama. And he said, I told them if they didn't fire him by 6 hours, they were not getting them $1 billion. So he was blackmailing Ukraine. That money, he was out blackmailing the people for Burisma, the board that his son was on. He admitted himself what he'd done. He did that under the auspices of being the vice president for.
That's right. And you know, Ken, we know that you don't tolerate blackmail, and neither do you at home. And we hope you'll join us again next week for the next episode of Brainstorming America.